What was the best karma is a bitch moment you have witnessed? Edit. Holy cow, this blew up. I am at work and have been laughing my ass off from the sweet justice I am reading. I was working at a mental health facility for the elderly as a nurse, worked there for over a year with a perfect work record. I worked for the same company at another elderly facility also for the same amount of time with a perfect work record. My coworker found out I have PTSD and decided to tell my boss at the psych facility that I have PTSD, and the two together plotted to have me committed. One day in October 2012 they launched their attack. I was working a 7 a.m. 3 p.m. shift and doing very well for 2 hours when my boss called me into her office to congratulate me on 1 year service. When we were in her office alone she started grilling me about my mental health and how it plays out at home. Next thing I know she's forcing me to call my coworker who is off duty and making me go with her to the psych emergency because I have PTSD. The entire meeting was designed to stress me out and cause me to be triggered enough to behave poorly or crazy somehow to rationalize the next step, which was cart me off to emergency, and when they see me they will instantly know I belong locked away in a padded room. They didn't though. The hospital said I was fine, just stressed out about being forced to go to the hospital like a crazy person for no reason other than admitting I had PTSD. After the hospital let me go, my boss put me on extended medical leave without telling me and ignored all my calls for 2 weeks. Wrote letters lying about me to her bosses in the HR department. I filed a union grievance and a complaint with a third-party whistleblower company for my company's head office to hear about. My boss lied about me to everyone. She said I told her I had a murderer in my head. That I was standing in front of mirrors with knives wanting to cut flesh. They believed her, so they shut down my complaints. I took it to the Human Rights Tribunal, self-represented against the largest long-term care provider in North America, and I won. Took 3 long years from incidents to end of court. It was the hardest thing I have ever done. My employer's health declined considerably by the time trial happened. She lost her job, she had to move to the mainland, and there is a forever public record about what she did. The coworker who helped my boss is in the permanent record, and the employees of the job site were ordered to learn of what she and our boss had done to me and the outcome. She will never be comfortable at that job site again, and what she is known to all. I got the highest amount awarded for damages to dignity and self. I created a precedent for other PTSD persons with clean work history who do a good job on the clock but have very real struggles with PTSD symptoms at home. No karma could possibly taste better than 40K and a clear reputation. The shy, meek new kid on the block I used to pick on beat the shit out of me. I was 10 and he was 12. We lived on same street and he would walk past my house on the way home from school. After several days of teasing him, he paused and stared into my eyes. I walked up towards the driveway and got in his face, at which point he unleashed the craziest barrage of punches and kickboxing combinations that I simply did not expect. I took a few to my eye and bloodied my face. Needless to say, he made me cry and run away like a bitch. This was one of the most transformational experiences of my life. It taught me self-control, humility, and absolute respect for the hidden strengths of people around me. This is from my younger years. A friend of mine had a cousin visiting around Victoria Day in Canada, aka Firecracker Day. When I went to visit him, I was told he was in the backyard. I go back there and he and his cousin are setting off firecrackers. They have a big bowl of loose firecrackers. I ask if I can set a couple off as well, and both my friend and his cousin start tossing lit firecrackers at me while laughing. I figure that they are both acting like greedy assholes, so I decided to leave. Just as I'm about to leave, a spark gets into the bowl. The entire bowl of firecrackers ignite, leaving only a few unexploded. This lasted about 10 or 15 seconds. The stunned look on my friend and cousin's face was pure, karma is a bitch. I'm laughing at them. I'm sure they planned a whole afternoon of setting them off. I was working at a summer camp this past summer, and all the male campers and staff were playing dodgeball while the girls' cabins did their own girl night kinda thing. It was campers and junior staff versus staff, and it was kinda nearing the end of the night, so the rules for the staff were that if you got hit, you were done with no way of revival. I looked across the gym and saw that one of my fellow staff was hit and laying on the ground with his hands behind his head. So naturally I grab a dodgeball, sneak around behind him keeping myself out of his field of view, and throw the ball at his dick. As I was laughing and running away, it bounced off his dick and, without hesitation, he brought his leg up and kicked the ball as hard as he could, and it hit me straight in the face with enough force to knock me off my feet. My son's abuser walked free in court. None of our mutual friends believed he could do something like that, so I was socially shunned after the hearing as well. Not long afterwards, the man was hit by a car and spent 9 months in a coma before finally dying of an MRSA infection in his lungs. I don't want to say I'm glad he suffered, because the kind of person to do something like that to a child is already tortured along their own karmic path. The reason I'm relieved he's gone is because my son will never be hurt by that man, his father, again. I'm way late for this, but this is one of my favorite stories to tell. So, when I see a thread about karma, I can hardly resist sharing this one. I went to a small school of about 80 students. In my class there was 12. Although our numbers were small, we still had the classic bully archetype. Let's call him Christopher. Christopher was one of those kids who felt like he could do whatever he wanted to anyone else, and he would be absolved of all blame if he finished his routine with "it's just a joke." Basically, he was a grade A prick. Enter the second major character. There was also a mentally challenged kid in our class. Let's call him Todd. Now, Todd was fond of asking questions. It was just his own way of obtaining information. I know this might sound bad, but we got annoyed with him pretty soon. Hey, we were just kids. Now, although Todd annoyed us, we still all looked after him and made sure nobody gave him shit. He was one of us, sometimes that was a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. The karmic incident in place took place once when we were the oldest year in the school. We basically ruled the school, and naturally this power would go to our heads. And it corrupted nobody quite as much as Christopher. We were playing rounders, kind of a UK baseball, practicing for an upcoming competition. Split up into 2 teams and made play each other. I was kinda mad because Todd was on my team, and as you can imagine, he wasn't the most athletically gifted. Picture Kermit the Frog trying to run the 110 meters hurdles. That unathletic. We were losing, due in no small part to the other team's superior members. I had lost interest and only gave lackluster hits when it was my turn. Then it was Todd's turn. I watched just to see how it would go. And I looked at the other team. Christopher was pitching the ball. He wasn't even giving Todd a chance. He'd throw the ball at his feet and burst out laughing with his team. Babe Ruth couldn't have done a damn thing with those kind of throws. It went on for 3 minutes. Eventually his own team got sick of him and told him to give a decent throw so Todd could strike out and the game could progress. He throws it and Todd braces himself. We're all watching by now. Todd has tears in his eyes, the kind of thing humiliation does to someone like that. And as the ball draws closer, the world moved in slow motion for me. Whack. Todd didn't just hit the ball with the bat, he fucking annihilated it. The bang was heard all over the school. It sounded like a bomb had gone off, localized entirely around the side of the bat. So what does a ball do when it's met with a force like that? I don't know for sure, but in this case it went back towards Christopher at Mach speed. I didn't even see the ball on its way back. It was like a bullet from a pistol. When it got to Christopher, it hit him squarely in the eye. He fell down, out cold. One of his friends helped him inside, while the rest of us, both teams, cheered and laughed. We lifted Todd on our shoulders and gave him a hero's support. He was no longer just Todd. He was Todd, the destroyer of assholes. Last spring I didn't get a date to the junior prom. I wasn't thrilled, but I figured I'd go stag. I found the perfect dress and was actually really excited. Then my group of friends said I couldn't come with them. Why? I didn't have a date and it would ruin the pictures if I stood by myself. And since I wasn't going to be in the pictures, they said, wouldn't it just be so awkward for me to get ready with them and be at Claudia's, the ringleader house beforehand? And of course, wouldn't I just be so uncomfortable being the only one in the limo with no boyfriend? And what would I do afterwards anyways? I mean, everyone knows what happens at the parties after prom. So I didn't go at all. Guess whose limo never showed up? Not my story, but my mom's. Apparently when she was a young lass, there was a girl at school who was always a major bitch to her. Hated my mom for whatever reason and always made fun of her. Fast forward to my mom as a college-aged woman now dating a guitarist from Bob Marley's band, out at a bar with him getting a drink. Dude goes to the bathroom and said bitch from back in the day comes up to my mom and says, OMG, did you see who is here at that moment? Dude comes and puts his arm around my mom and says, hey babe, what's happening? She said the look on that girl's face was priceless. Late to the party, but this happened to me. When I was younger, high school, my city had automatic sprinklers in most of the parks and areas with grass. They would turn on automatically at like 3 or 4 a.m. So being a young dumb kid, me and my friends figured out if you kicked them hard enough the top would break off and the sprinkler would full force shoot a huge stream into the air from then on. We thought it was hilarious and were never caught. We kept on with this until one day they started replacing them with new super strong steel ones. I kicked one and broke my big toe, and while in agony rolled my ankle so fucking bad it was bruised up for a week and has never been the same. When I worked at a prison as an officer, an inmate who locked a boy in a box in the woods and repeatedly raped him was scheduled for release. His now adult victim successfully campaigned the state to utilize an underused law that allows sexual predators to be kept under incarceration to be treated if they meet certain criteria. His story was highlighted on Dateline. A few weeks after having his story broadcasted on Dateline, the inmate was moved into general population. He was placed into a cell with a younger inmate who had a violent history and was sexually abused as a child. A few hours after being locked down for the night, the younger inmate used the intercom in his cell to alert staff that he had killed his cellmate. Staff opened up the cell to find the inmate beaten to death. Late to the party, some little toddler punk grabbed at the just poured hot coffee meant for me. The barista tried to stop the kid, but this kid was not having it. He took a huge sip, I think mistaking it for the pumpkin spice latte his mama ordered for him while in line before me, and promptly made a face, spit it out, and dropped the hot coffee all over himself. Cries ensue. Mom berates the employee for letting this happen. Waving her own large frap wildly in the air. Little hellion is still throwing full tantrum on the floor, pulls at his mom's pants, and then the frap falls on him too. I giggled. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos from yet another TTS channel.